Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, 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 gang. Yes, welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Dispatch, presented by thegaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the Grand Poobah. Yes, I am the founder and editor-in-chief of the Gaming Gang. Welcome aboard. If this is your first time joining me, keep in mind, very, very casual. We're just kicking back, talking about tabletop gaming news. It's not rocket surgery by any stretch of the imagination. And of course, if you are a longtime viewer joining me live, or maybe you're watching after the fact, welcome back. Thanks for hanging out. So tonight is Giving Tuesday. This is December 1st, 2020. This is live stream number 581. Wow. 581. So, do want to mention, if you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already, and if you subscribe, ding that bell, because not only will it let you know when my live streams air here on YouTube. Of course, the Dispatch is Monday through Thursday nights as I bring you the latest in tabletop gaming news, but it'll also let you know when I upload other videos, such as today's review of Dune Imperium. That's right. This is from Direwolf Digital and Legendary Pictures. I know a lot of people are very curious about this game. I've got the dope for you. I pretty much lay it out. I give you a little bit of a how to play as well as my review. So definitely check that out if you're kind of curious about that. So also want to mention that when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And of course, because this is a live stream, that means chat is available. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay, but I do my best to kind of follow chat. I know sometimes it shoots by relatively quickly, but I do my best to keep track. So if you want to say howdy, maybe you got a question, a comment, by all means, chime in, and I will do my best to respond. So first out of the gate tonight is my buddy from high school, Scott Weigel. Good to see you, Scott. And a Gray Day is also in chat with us tonight, too. So as I mentioned, today, for many people, if you're watching live right now, it is still Giving Tuesday. If you have an opportunity, make a difference. Even if it's $5, $5, $10, make a difference. Make some living thing in this world's life better. Whatever charity, however, come on. I'm sure plenty of people out there blew loads of money Friday through Monday. Hopefully you saved a couple of bucks to send along to a charity or two of your choice. Sweet. Cool. So like I said, it is Giving Tuesday, and this has been a very rough year for many nonprofits out there and charities out there. So do what you can. All right. Anyway, so I've got an eclectic mix of news tonight, and there's something I'm going to discuss a little bit after the news. I have had some people asking what I think of something that's kind of floating around out there, sort of, nothing's official yet, but there's whispers in the wind. We'll discuss. All right, let's jump on into the news because there's a new family-friendly mystery game. It's on the horizon. It's from Loki and Iello Games. And I guess Loki is a game company. I'm not familiar with them. We are not talking about the Norse god of trickery, Loki. But I've got the latest on Detective Charlie. I just get a kick out of it. It's like, it's a little cat. There's always something strange happening on Misterville Island, and Charlie Holmes needs your help to crack the case. Interview the residents, analyze the evidence, find out who did it, and remember to return to the station in time for tea. Detective Charlie is a cooperative deduction game. When it's your turn, roll the die and move Detective Charlie to interview the witnesses. As witnesses help you rule out suspects, you'll soon find out that the last suspect may be the culprit. You think that you found them? Check the answer in the envelope. If it's the same character, great, you did it. If not, you will be ostracized on Misterville Island and driven from the island in exile, where you will slowly spiral into depression. No, I'm kidding. If not, don't worry. You'll do better next time. Detective Charlie is for 1 to 5 players, ages 7 and up, plays in around 25 minutes. It's going to carry an MSRP of $22.49. Kind of an odd MSRP. But it is going to arrive on January 7th. So those of you out there who have smaller kids, this might be a fun little co-op deduction game for you to check out. I wouldn't call this social deduction, but it is a deduction game. Kabuki Kid has joined us in chat. Good to see you. Double K's in the house. Also arriving in January is Dice Miner. It's from Atlas Games. Here's the skinny. The dwarves once lived beneath 3 mighty mountains. After centuries of war, they defeated their age-old enemies, the dragons. Wouldn't it be orcs? Aren't orcs like the age-old enemies of dwarves? And elves, sort of? I don't know. Moving to the surface, the dwarves built magnificent cities and won renown for their heartening beer. Hooray, beer! But the dragons have returned. Now the dwarves must remember their roots, clear old tunnels, and return to ancient caverns while fighting their primeval foes. In each of 3 rounds, custom dice are rolled onto the mountain. You are a dwarf hero, drafting dice for your hand. Scores are tallied after each round before you re-roll your dice, and the mountain is refilled. Ultimately, Dice Miner is a game about drafting the dice you covet, adding them to your hoard, and pushing your luck to build massive combos and score as many points as you can. Dice Miner is for 1 to 4 players, ages 10 and up, plays in around 20 to 30 minutes. It's going to carry an MSRP of $29.95 when it arrives in January. Aha! I have to admit, whenever I think of Atlas Games, I always think of Gloom. And I've never played it. I have never played any. I got to be honest, I don't think I've ever played anything from Atlas Games. Because if I remember correctly, okay, so I know they do Gloom, and I know they do. There's a role-playing game that they do. Is it Over the Edge? I'm trying to remember. But the funny thing is, the Gaming Gang actually has reviews of Gloom, and I think they did Cthulhu Gloom. Wasn't that another one? And Elliot Miller did those reviews. Elliot had like the connection with Atlas Games. So, but this looks kind of cool. The dice look very nice. Now, there is a basic edition, which is what I'm talking about here for the $29.95. I believe there is also a deluxe edition for $10 more. And I'm not sure what the difference would be because the basic game has these cut dice that actually, like I said, look pretty cool. So let's see. Flaming Huron has arrived. Yes, one of our moderators has arrived in chat to make sure that he doesn't have to drop that ban hammer on anyone. So Scott Weagle says, Smaug. I always laugh when I say that. Smaug may have something to say about enemies of dwarves. So who out there, when they first read The Hobbit, which I read, I wasn't even in high school yet. I think I was in 7th grade. So that would have made me 11 when I read The Hobbit, which is kind of funny because when I was about 10 or 11 years old, I was reading a lot of Peter Straub and Stephen King. As Scott will attest, we were all in honors classes in freshman year in high school. We all got, it was like, oh, get me out of here, man. It's like we're doing so much more work than all the other students in this school. It's like, what the hell? But when I read The Hobbit, I always pronounced it as Smog. And in fact, I think I could have swore I went and saw a presentation. I think it was a play. I think it was a play that they had put on in the Chicago area, and it was The Hobbit, and they called Smog Smog, not Smaug. It's Smaug. Scott says he read The Hobbit in 6th grade. Kabuki Kid says that they were pretty little when they were exposed to The Hobbit. That sounds kind of weird, doesn't it? I originally had it read to me. Double K says that they always heard it pronounced as smog too. Don't you know? But anyway, could be a cool game. Could be an interesting game to check out. Also on the horizon, in January, following a very successful Kickstarter for Goodman Games, is Fred Saberhagen's Empires of the East Sourcebook for Dungeon Crawl Classics. I believe it's also coming out for 5th edition D&D. Here's more about it. Thousands of years ago, the ashes of nuclear fire changed the world. The weapons of mass destruction ceased to work as the laws of physics altered. In their wake came elementals and demons, creatures from the darkest dreams and nightmares of mankind. Magic returned to the world. Humankind arose from the ashes and rebuilt society, just as the vile Empire of the East wielded the demonic powers of Orcus to sweep across the globe. Now it falls to a small group of resistant fighters to reclaim freedom for humanity. Welcome to the Empire of the East role-playing game Sourcebook, designed for the Dungeon Crawl Classics rule set, and also compatible with Mutant Crawl Classics. Herein you'll find information regarding Fred Saberhagen's seminal trilogy of novels, which set the stage for his rich fantasy world and were among Gary Gygax's stated Appendix N inspirations for Dungeons & Dragons. Officially licensed by the estate of Fred Saberhagen, this hardcover sourcebook offers everything you need to play DCC role-playing game campaigns in the world of the Empire of the East. Lead designer Jason Vey has adapted the world in a simple, clean style that's easy to integrate into your DCC game, and Harley Stroh provides one of the introductory adventures included inside. Presented with stunning cover art by Ian Miller, inside you will find rules for magic tailored to the post-apocalyptic fantasy setting of the Changeling Earth, including new spells and summonings to enrich any Dungeon Crawl Classics campaign. Character options for adventuring in this world. A discussion of demons, elementals, and monsters, including stats for creatures compatible with any DCC and MCC campaign. Lost technology of the golden age of man and its effect on the Changeling Earth. Statistics for all the major characters from the trilogy, also usable as NPCs in any Dungeon Crawl Classics or Mutant Crawl Classics campaign. There's also 2 short, low-level adventures to start off your campaign, and more. Using this sourcebook does require the DCC RPG core rulebook, While this sourcebook contains all you need to play a campaign, Saberhagen's novels are an invaluable resource in understanding the setting. We highly recommend you also read the Saberhagen Empire of the East series, available as a modern compilation or in the original 3 individual volumes titled The Broken Lands, The Black Mountains, and Arna's World, or Changeling Earth. Take up your sword, gather your spells, and stand with Arna's armies against John Amanor and his forces of darkness. Damn you, John Amanor! Hate you! I don't have a final page count for the DCC Empires of the East. The Kickstarter proposed 80 to 90 pages. So I don't know what they ended up at. But this hardcover is going to arrive in January. It's going to carry an MSRP of $29.99. Sweet. Very nice. So I don't remember if I have read Empires of the East or not. Now, here's an odd kind of thing. I tend to mix up Fred Saberhagen and Harry Harrison all the time. And I don't know why, because they are completely different. Well, of course, obviously, they're completely different authors. They're different people, but their styles are very different as well. And I don't know why I always mix them up. So, if I remember correctly, so Harry Harrison did the West of Eden series. That was a trilogy, and that was a fantasy series. But it wasn't, swords and sorcery kind of fantasy. And wasn't it Fred Saberhagen that did the 2 Swords trilogies? Book of Swords, and I want to say it was the Book of Lost Swords, which were like books 4, 5, and 6. Of course, Saberhagen did the Berserker series of science fiction novels. Then they were like real short novels. But like I said, I tend to mix up Harry Harrison and Fred Saberhagen for some ungodly reason. Although I have to admit, I was a big Harry Harrison fan. I am a big fan of the Stainless Steel Rat, Slippery Jim Degrees, or is it Degrees? I think it's Degrees is how it's supposed to be pronounced. Also want to mention, I will try to look into some other news about this as well. Goodman Games is also coming out with a source book for Jack Vance's Dying Earth. Nice. That is pretty cool. That is on the horizon as well. I think it's coming out a little bit later in 2021. I'm almost positive it is not out just yet. This looks really cool. This really does look interesting. I really have to go dig through my emails and see what exactly happened with the discussion with Goodman Games. Because at one point there was some talk about doing some reviews of some of their stuff. And then nothing. Nothing at all. I don't know. I'll have to take a look. I will have to take a peek. All right, moving along with some more role-playing game news. A little further out, though, Paizo has announced that they've got their new hardcover rules supplement, which is going to be arriving for Pathfinder this summer. I've got the dope on Secrets of Magic. Discover the untold potential of magic. Secrets of Magic, the newest hardcover rulebook for the Pathfinder role-playing game. Secrets of Magic brings the popular Magus, or I have heard some people say Magus. I've always pronounced it Magus. And Summoner classes into Pathfinder 2nd Edition, unlocking heroes who combine magical might with martial prowess and offering command of a powerful magical companion creature. That would be for the Summoner. So all of a sudden, Pinky was just down here. I don't know if you heard in the background her carrying on. And all of a sudden, this puff of white cat hair went just kind of wafting past and then landed right on my nose. like, get out of here. Get off me. Get off me. Feel like I was in Hawaii. Anyway, the lavishly illustrated 256-page rulebook contains hundreds of new spells with potent offerings for all spellcasting character classes, magic items for any player character, and lore detailing the fundamental structure and theories of magic. There's a special section within the volume, the Book of Unlimited Magic, which presents new methods of spellcasting with elementalism, geomancy, shadow magic, rune magic, and even pervasive magic. Pervasive, not persuasive. Oh, come on. Magic. To give every place and creature in your game a magical spin. I don't know if I'd want to put a magical spin on that. The 256-page hardcover is going to carry an MSRP of $49.99 when it arrives in August. The tome is also going to be available in PDF upon release, I believe. And there is a pocket edition planned sometime down the line. Nice. So this is going to be, geez, Jeff, can't get this out of your mouth. This, I believe, is going to be the big Gen Con release. If we have a Gen Con, fingers crossed. So yes, I think that's going to be the big Gen Con release from Paizo, at least for Pathfinder. They usually have a Pathfinder release and a Starfinder release at Gen Con. And they're usually, especially for Pathfinder, usually pretty big releases there. Do want to mention the fine folks over at Paizo did send me a holiday card. It's like, I actually have last year's sitting up behind me. Can't really make it out. And I will be putting this up there as well. I'm sure people have noticed a little holiday festiveness to the stream tonight. Yeah, you know. Come on, it's the holiday season, especially this year. We need some cheering up. Oh, my goodness. So Grade A mentions that Paizocon usually has some big releases as well. You know, one of these years, I should try to make my way to Paizocon, because I could actually, at the same time, probably finagle a tour of Wizards of the Coast, because they're both in Redmond, Washington, which is a suburb of Seattle. I have friends who live there, not at Wizards of the Coast or Paizo, but in Redmond. So, and I have passed by the headquarters of both. So it's kind of cool. So, so Grade A says, lovely city of SeaTac. Yes, SeaTac is very, very strange, right? SeaTac is actually kind of like in Seattle. That's where Seattle Airport is at, which is also called SeaTac. So there's some discussion about the dying Earth. I got to be honest, I have never read the series. I know, shocking. But I have listened to a couple of audiobooks that were halfway decent. They were pretty decent. Anyway, the other thing I was going to mention about the holiday card from Paizo is there's a promo code inside. And it's for 10% off one item. And I'm going to reach out to my contact at Paizo, Aaron, and ask if it's okay if I share this promo code one evening here on the stream. I know it's 10% off one item, but still kind of cool. Kind of cool. And of course, it's a little goblin on this card. You can see a little goblin snow globe for it's like a helmet. Sweet. All right, let's finish up, because my final news story, now available in PDF from Brabblemark Press, is Zyborg Commando Resurrection Overdrive. Say that 5 times fast. As Ibram has joined us in chat. When crawling terror comes from space, only the living dead can save the Earth. Cyborg Commando Resurrection Overdrive is a twisted, post-apocalyptic sci-fi horror role-playing game. In this dark future, an invasion of giant robotic insects and their masters is only opposed by you and your comrades, undead cyber soldiers risen from the grave on a mission of vengeance. Zikro is Starship Troopers meeting Return to the Living Dead while chewing a piece of bubblegum Crisis and rocking out to a soundtrack by the Misfits. I'm picturing this. It's a pretty good visual there, right? It's a war of horrors with Hollywood-style tactics and combat, but it's equally about trust, shadows, torments, and the struggle against a never-ending hunger. Unless you bring a Snickers with, then you should be okay. Come on, take a bite. Zikro is a complete RPG featuring a new D10X skill and combat system that is simple to use, encouraging tactics and teamwork to master. Easy step-by-step character creation rules for 4 Cyborg Commando call signs: the Cannibal, the Ghost, the Psycho, and the Ripper. Character aspects: trust, shadows, torments, and hunger, designed to encourage teamwork and role-playing. Quick advancement rules to boost your abilities even as your memories and humanity continue to decay. There's a Game Master chapter with detailed advice on how to run a Zikro game, including useful ideas for almost any other RPG. Sample survivors, beasts, and alien invaders with dozens of possible attacks, abilities, and weapons, plus random charts for creating your own unique extraterrestrial army, and conveniently bookmarked chapters, sections, and hyperlinked page references. This 80-page PDF is available right now at DriveThruRPG for $8. Ka-ching! I gotta say, if you're looking for science fiction, zombie, action, Hollywood, blow 'em up, shoot 'em ups, it's probably gonna be right up your alley. I gotta say, it actually looks pretty decent. I did receive a review copy from Brabblemark, and I'm going to forward that on to Sammy because I do not do reviews for PDFs. I only do physical books. So Ibram says, yes, Cyborg Commando is brought to you by Snickers and vampire teenagers on skateboards, says a grade A. I do believe that this was inspired by Cyborg Commando, which wasn't that a Gary Gygax RPG after he left TSR? And I could have swore that it was like a train wreck. I might be misremembering, but for some reason I thought Cyborg Commando was Gary Gygax, but it was kind of a disaster. So I don't know. But this is kind of inspired by it. It is not like a retro clone of it. So that is it for the news tonight. Once again, as I mentioned, you can get that PDF over at DriveThruRPG. And of course, the Dispatch as well as the Gaming Gang are affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to go visit, say, DriveThruRPG, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads, and that way, if you do make a purchase, I get a wee bitty portion of that sale. But all those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up, and they certainly help keep the Gaming Gang website around. Thank you very much for all of you out there who have been supporting the Gaming Gang by using those links. Kid you not. I've said it before. I've said it time and time again. I don't have cheapo web hosting. You can't pull in over 4,000 unique visitors a month who visit more than once every month on GoDaddy hosting. You just can't pull off that $4 hosting, right? The free hosting you get with your domain name. So yes, my hosting is about $65 a month. And just about every month, those nickels, dimes, and quarters really help. So thank you. Cheers. It's funny because this cup, when I bought it, didn't think about it. I bought this last year, my little snowman cup. This is like made for a lefty, right? Because, I mean, do you really need to be looking at the snowman's face as you drink? Didn't even think about it. So every time I lift it up to have a sip, you're just seeing me with a white cup. I've actually considered getting a custom-made mug with the Gaming Gang logo on it on one side, and then on the other side have something like Get Your Geek On, something like that. I don't know. I bounce it around. The thing that stops me from doing it is everything always looks really good in the preview, and then when you get stuff, it usually looks like crap. So yes, this still has the UPC on the bottom, as you can see, because when I washed it, the stupid thing won't come off. It's like, what did you use? Epoxy to put this on there? It's like the price tag didn't come off. And I don't have time to be sitting there with like steel wool, like trying to get that off. Yeah, what can I say? All right, so something else I did want to mention is episode 600, which is on the near horizon. The funny thing is, if there hadn't been the like Thanksgiving, right? So that's like Thursday off. Episode 600 of, well, it was the Daily Dope. Now it's the Gaming Gang Dispatch, or just the Dispatch. Would have fallen on New Year's Eve, which I am not going to be having a show on New Year's Eve. I am not going to do a show on Christmas Eve either. So episode 600 is going to be in very early January, and I am going to have a special guest. I'm going to have my best friend, Elliot Miller, who was formerly part of the Gaming Gang, officially on the show. So we are going to spend that episode just kind of reminiscing, not only about the Gaming Gang and our experiences with it, but high school playing games. I'm going to pick Elliot's brain, see what games he remembers that, who ran what. Because I know I can't remember what it was, but we were discussing something here on the show, and Scott in chat said, oh yeah, Elliot used to run XYZ game. And then I asked Elliot about it, and he said, I don't remember that. Of course, Elliot's memory is a tricky thing, because as I pointed out before, he can't remember what he had for lunch yesterday, but he can sit there and tell you in great detail all these various sessions of Masks of Nyarlathotep back when we were in our teens, our late teens. So I just wanted to let you know, we will have a special guest on episode 600. Sure, not as big a milestone episode as 500 was, but so Scott says, ooh, pick Elliot's brain. So Kabuki Kid mentioned that they saw, I guess we'll mention this again, right? The Dune Imperium review is out. Yes, that I put that up this morning. It was already up. It was already uploaded and waiting. So that is out. So check that out. Kabuki Kid, double K, I know is very interested in that game. So you'll get a look at it and hear my thoughts about it as well. I'm not giving anything away. Well, of course, if you actually go look at the review on the Gaming Gang, you'll see the score. So I guess I'm really not hiding anything. All right, so I mentioned there was something that I was going to talk a little bit about. We're not going to spend a ton of time talking about it. I'm kind of curious what those of you out there watching right now think. And if you watch after the fact and you have some thoughts to share about this, by all means, please comment in the comment section. So I've had a few people asking if Hasbro is going to sell Wizards of the Coast, because there was recently an article on ICV2. What the hell is the column called? Rolling for Initiative, I think it's called. And the gentleman who authors that column owns, a game store in Springfield, Illinois, which I'm almost positive I have been to because it has been there forever. You're killing me, Smalls. And Elliot and I drove down there out of the blue one time. And Elliot wanted to go find something and he thought they would have it, or he called down there and they said they had it. And for the life of me, I don't remember what it was. But we drove down to Springfield from the Chicago area, which is actually a pretty long haul. It's about a 4.5 hour, 5-ish hour drive. And we went in, and the funny thing is, I seem to recall, I think it's called Castle Perilous. I seem to recall it was mainly like Warhammer stuff. They were very heavy into the Games Workshop stuff, which I would not be surprised if that's no longer the case. But I forgot, like I said, I can't remember what he was going down there to get, but this is years ago. So anyway, this gentleman wrote that he thinks that Hasbro is going to sell Wizards of the Coast. And I guess he gave some different reasons why, and talks about who would possibly purchase Wizards of the Coast. I'm not so sure about this. Now, as I've mentioned time and time again, we know the holding company that owns Asmodee, which has owned it since 2018, I think it was like 2018. They're looking to unload it. They're looking to unload Asmodee. I think in the great scheme of things, they are also looking to sell Fantasy Flight Games separately. So I think FFG would be a separate sale and then Asmodee to somebody else. Because as we've seen, the big licenses have been transferred away from Fantasy Flight Games. I think is Lord of the Rings the only thing that FFG still has? Because Star Wars is gone. The role-playing game has gone over to that Spanish RPG company, and the Star Wars miniatures games have gone off to, what the hell are they called? Atomic Mass or something like that. I don't. It was a new company that they created for the Marvel miniatures game. That I swear those minis look sweet. So that's gone. Star Wars is, like I said, it's all gone. I think the only thing left, like I said, is Arkham Horror. So they've got the Lovecraft stuff, which there is no license for it. So if you and I wanted to get together, in fact, everybody in chat, we'll get together and we'll create a HP Lovecraft game. We don't have to pay anybody. There's no licensing involved. Do what we want. So I think that's going to happen. And I think FFG is going to be, like I said, sold separately. And then Asmodee, that holding company, is looking to move them. But they've been looking to move them for a while. Let's get back to Wizards of the Coast. So let's see what people in chat say. And then I'll talk about why I think what I think. So Kabuki Kid says they think Wizards would be making Hasbro money. D&D and Magic are big. Not as big as you would think. We'll talk about that in a sec. So Flaming Heron says Magic more so. D&D isn't the golden goose for them. So Double K says FFG did Outer Rim. Supposedly they have expansions coming, so they still have that for Star Wars. Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. Great A says, yeah, there's a lot of Lovecraft games that are open IP. So Flaming Heron says that they can't see Hasbro ever selling Wizards of the Coast. I can. I can see them selling it. So we've talked about this before. Maybe somebody out there, you're new to the show, and it's not something I discuss like every episode. Hey, it's time for us to talk about Wizards of the Coast. But last time I heard, Wizards of the Coast, which of course consisted of Dungeons and Dragons, Magic the Gathering, and Avalon Hill, which Avalon Hill has moved to Hasbro. It is no longer under the Wizards of the Coast umbrella. Anyway, they brought in something like, I think it was 2% of Hasbro's revenue, which just, I've said it before, just goes to show you how much money Hasbro makes in toys and kids' games. Billions of dollars. So it is not that big a deal. Wizards of the Coast is not some golden goose that's providing these golden eggs for Hasbro. And I have heard in the past chirping that Wizards of the Coast is more hassle than Hasbro sometimes thinks it's worth. But the question becomes, who's going to buy them? Right? Who's got that kind of cash available? Nobody I could think of. I don't even think Asmodee would have the sort of cash on hand to purchase Wizards of the Coast. I just really don't. I don't see it. So Kabuki Kid says, aren't they working on D&D movies? Yeah, we've heard, they're always talking about, it's in pre-production and all this other stuff. But how big of a deal would it be just to license the property for a movie or make that part of the deal when Hasbro would sell Wizards of the Coast, that Hasbro would still have a stake in, movies and TV and things like that. So I would think, so right here, a grade 8 points something out that a lot of people don't realize as well. 3 times the amount of people work at Paizo than they do at Wizards. Yeah, the people who work on D&D full-time, I believe, is about a dozen people. Everyone else is freelanced. So that's something else to keep in mind as well. But the interesting thing, too, and the gentleman over at ICV2 included this in his article, is that we're seeing Wizards of the Coast kind of finagling their way out of licenses. And that's another reason why people think they're going to be sold by Hasbro. I just think Wizards of the Coast is really kind of overdoing the whole wokeness thing. I think that is part of the issue. And if things aren't exactly the way they're hoping to make them, then they don't want to have anything to do with companies anymore. Now, the whole Gale Force 9 fiasco, that I've heard really stems more to Gale Force 9 outsourcing stuff to other companies, and Wizards of the Coast did not like that fact. Who knows? Who knows what it is? So, okay, so let's think about who would you think would be interested in purchasing Wizards of the Coast, let alone being able to pull it off. Yes, Flaming Huron says, Paizo? As well as tosses out, yeah, they did some D&D movies, and they were awful. Yes, Kabuki Kid, you are right on the money. She says they were dreadful. I think that's putting it kindly. So Grade A says, it's a messy room. Someone needs to spend some time tidying stuff up. So Paizo can't afford to buy him. Grade A says, Monty Cook. That'd be ironic. Yeah, wouldn't it? They don't have the money to buy them. Goodman Games, I think they'd be pretty good fits. They seem to have their fingers on the pulse of a lot of fantasy role playing. There's no way they can afford them. So who's left? Another holding company? Now that would be a possibility. A Grade A says Disney. That is also a possibility. But the thing is, does Disney want the hassle? That's the whole problem, right? Hasbro doesn't want the hassle. Hasbro wants to focus on toys and kids' board games. And like they moved Avalon Hill over to Hasbro because Hasbro knows board games. Hasbro doesn't necessarily know role-playing games and collectible card games as well as they probably would like. It's not really their forte. So I got to be honest, I don't see it happening anytime soon. But I'll tell you what, I would think we would see Wizards of the Coast get sold before any work would start on a 6th edition D&D. Because I highly doubt anyone involved at Hasbro or Wizards of the Coast wants to invest time and effort and money, obviously enough, into a new edition of Dungeons and Dragons if they're not going to be the ones who actually, make the money off of it. So I don't know. So we'll see. And those of you out there who are like, oh, there's no way Hasbro's never going to sell Wizards of the Coast. People thought that about TSR. TSR was a monster in the gaming industry. Well, as far as our niche goes, right? TSR was like, wow, holy cow, they make millions of dollars. You know what happened to them? Great A says Asmodee's got cash. Yeah, but Asmodee is owned by a holding company that wants to get rid of Asmodee. So I can't see them picking up Wizards of the Coast as well to go with Asmodee. I don't know. Plus, I think Wizards of the Coast would cost more to acquire than Asmodee. I don't think Asmodee brings in the kind of profits or revenue period as Magic and D&D together do. And D&D does well. Just if you and I, if all of us in chat, everybody who watches this video, if we all were together and we owned Wizards of the Coast, we would be ecstatic about how much money Dungeons and Dragons put in our pockets. It's just that's why people call it Hasborg, right? Instead of Hasbro. A huge multinational conglomerate like Hasbro, Wizards of the Coast is just, it's peanuts. It's nothing. So I disagree with a Grade A. I don't think Asmodee would pick them up. Like I said, I don't think Asmodee's got the cash, and 2, it's already owned by a holding company that's looking to unload Asmodee. So I don't know. So Flaming Heron says for Hasbro, it's a drop in the ocean. Yes, but the thing is, year in, year out, when we hear about these like insider calls with Hasbro, where they, their stockholders, their calls to their stockholders and things like that, they always talk about how Wizards of the Coast and Magic the Gathering numbers are always up. They oh, wow, they've improved 10% over last year. It's just, when you're talking about multi-billion-dollar revenue streams and, $30 million, $40 million, it's like, oh yeah, D&D did all right. So Grade A says, I was just being pessimistic with Disney and Asmodee. I don't know. Would it be that horrible if Asmodee had them? Disney, I'd be a little worried about. You'd see a lot of things change. But I have to admit, there are a lot of people out there who right now are kind of upset with the direction that D&D is going in. And I'm not going to go into a bunch about this, but I saw a cartoon and it did make me chuckle, where it's kind of like hey, can I play your game? It's somebody like coming at, it's like a group sitting around a table. They're playing D&D. And they're like, hey, can I play your game? And they're like, yeah, sure. You can sit down and play. And then the new player's like, well, I want it like this, and I want it like this, and I want this kind of representation, and I don't want to see this anymore. I want that out, and I want this in. It's like, geez, relax, hang on. A grade A is providing us with the background info. Hasbro ended 2019 with year-end cash and cash equivalents of $4.58 billion, including $3.4 billion of E1 acquisition financing. Returned $398 million to shareholders in 2019, including $336.6 million in dividends. That shows me the money. Oh, sorry, that's show me the money. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Told you, multi-billion-dollar corporation. Hey, Craig Martin's popped in. Good to see you, Craig. Hasn't Disney not been paying some of their writers' royalties? I've heard about that, but it's not something that I've really looked into a whole lot because it's not really something that I cover. But yeah, I ran across something. It's like, what else is new? There's always some company out there trying to screw people out of their creative royalties and stuff. Doesn't shock me at all. So we'll see what happens with good old Wizards of the Coast. I honestly think, this is just off the top of my head, I think we'll see Fantasy Flight Games get sold before we would see Wizards of the Coast get sold. Now, that's not to say that both of them don't get sold at some point or neither of them get sold, but I do think that we would see FFG move before Wizards of the Coast, just because so much stuff has been going on with Fantasy Flight Games that just makes you sit there and look at it and say, oh yeah, somebody's getting ready to unload this. They're transferring stuff away so they can offload it to somebody else. All right, so Dennis Kozarowski, close maybe? Dennis Kozarowski has joined us in chat. Good to see you, Dennis. Thank you for hanging out with us. Getting ready to wrap up. So Kabuki Kid says FFG still has Marvel Champions at least. I don't know how well that's done. Just like, okay, what is Keyforge? Because I haven't played it. If I have played something, sometimes I don't remember exactly what it's called, but Keyforge was super hot when it came out. Nobody could keep it in stock. Part of it was because they didn't produce too many of them. So they were trying to create inflated scarcity to help boost the buzz up. I don't really hear anything about Keyforge anymore. But Flaming Heron says FFG is the most likely one. So Craig says the writer for Star Wars and Alien books is getting cheated out of money. Kabuki Kid says FFG isn't what they once were. No, they really aren't. Really not. You don't see the games that they come out with have like that buzz like they used to. You used to have a game coming out from FFG and it was always like, whoa, man, whoa, look out. Now it's just sort of, we got this coming out. You want to buy it, buy it. Now, I know Kabuki Kid is talking about how Corey Knizia left. So that was a big hit, at least as far as they were concerned. I have to wonder if Anton, God, what was Anton's last name? I wonder if Anton's still with FFG. Because he was like their PR person. And he was super nice. And he always wanted to sit down and do interviews and stuff like that. But getting review copies from him was like pulling teeth from like a killer whale. Lots of luck with that, right? But he was super nice. That's why I didn't mind sharing news about Fantasy Flight games. And every once in a while, we did get to review one. But then they bumped him up. And then Fantasy Flight Games always had this thing where they didn't want to have to bother sending out press releases about stuff coming out. They expected you to go to their website so you could follow their, their news, their blog on there. And it was like, well, I hate to break it to you, but if it comes down to a company sending me news and me actively having to go out and get the news, guess who's going to be getting the coverage on the websites and, the shows and stuff like that. So, but then it was, Christian, I forget. Then the original CEO of FFG took over. It was his daughter took over, I should say. And I know Elliot interviewed her at Gen Con one year. Christian Peterson, thank you. That was it. But Elliot really wasn't doing any coverage of gaming anymore. But she was the one who was like running the show at FFG. And I don't know. I have no idea. So anyway, so Grade A says the interesting change was when Christian Peterson went to Asmodee. Wonder about that change. Navarro jumped ship to Chip Theory. I'm not sure who Navarro is, nor do I know who Chip Theory is. So Kabuki Kid says, I remember Anton giving that speech about Asmodee jacking their prices, and he came across as a huge jerk. Sullied his image in my book. Like I said, Anton was always super nice to me. I will admit, there were times that he was kind of dismissive of Elliot when, Elliot was part of the gaming gang. But the thing is, I don't know, maybe I just come across as somebody that you're not going to F around with. I mean, I do my best to be a pretty nice person. I think I do a pretty good job of that. But no, I'm not here to swallow anybody's BS or anything like that. All right. Anyway, Peterson goes to Asmodee before or after or part of the FFG acquisition is the question. I thought it was after. I thought that was after the acquisition. So, all right. Chip Theory did Cloudspire. Thank you, a grade A. Kabuki Kid says, I wish Nikki Valens did more Legacy of Dragonholt before leaving too. Another game I am not overly familiar with. I got to be very honest. I have not had an opportunity to play too many Fantasy Flight games. And the reality is, I don't know. Maybe just chat dropped for a second. Because we're looking at 0 drop frames. And we're still showing that we're live. So, anyway, all right. So, Legacy of Dragonholt is a GM-less RPG adventure, kind of a co-op choose-your-own-adventure board game. Nice. I'll be the first to point out, I played Descent 2nd Edition. Elliot had gotten it. I thought it played, really long. And we were just playing this beginner adventure. And I was like, wow, this is taking forever. Forever. All right, everybody. That is it for tonight's show. We've been on about an hour, just under an hour. We're going to wrap up probably about 100, an hour, 2 minutes, 100 minutes. That'd be over an hour and a half, Jeff. Yeah, math is hard. I can tell you all the time. Math is hard. Anyway, once again, don't forget, you still got a little bit of time if you're here in the U.S. It's Giving Tuesday. Make a difference out there, please. And of course, if you like this video, by all means, give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, ding that bell. Because not only will it let you know when I stream the Dispatch Monday through Thursday nights, right here on YouTube. but it'll also let you know when I upload other videos, such as today's review of Dune Imperium from Direwolf Digital and Legendary Pictures. And of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more. Be sure to get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Those of you who hung out in chat tonight, thank you very much. I know Viper Dave popped in right at the end. I forget if I said hi to Viper Dave. My apologies if I did not. See, anybody else I forgot to say hello to? Taking a quick peek. I think I got everybody covered. I always want to try to make sure that I always say hello to people hanging out in chat. Kabuki Kid says, gimme, me wants Dune. You'll have to wait for Dune. I'm not sure if it's coming out middle of the month or early 2021. I've heard various things from various sources. Anyway, those of you who watch live, thank you very much. Always appreciate you hanging out so I'm not just babbling on and on and on to a camera to nobody out there. But I do know a lot of people out there don't have an opportunity to watch live. I really appreciate those of you who watch after the fact. Hell, maybe you're even watching on Memorex. Thank you very, very much. And of course, as I wrap up all of my videos during this never-ending pandemic, here's hoping all of you out there are being smart and staying safe. I'll see you tomorrow. Oh, you're still here. Well, if that's the case, if you'd like to subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel, by all means, click right here. And if you'd like to check out one of our recent live streams, click right up top. And if you want to roll the dice and see what the algorithm for YouTube recommends, click right here. And of course, thank you once again for watching. And gang, please stay safe and wear a mask.